welcome to class today. Today we shall be looking at introduction to chemistry. So today we are trying to learn the meaning of chemistry, the branches of chemistry, importance and adverse effects of chemistry. All right, in our environment, if you look around your environment, you'll notice that you have a lot of materials. In chemistry, we call it matter. If you recall, in junior secondary school, we thought that matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. And because matter is anything that has mass and occupies space, it tells us more about the environment because our environment is made up of matter, ranging from human being to the inanimate things, book, house, car, you name it. All of them are called matter in chemistry. So basically in chemistry, I shall be making reference to matter. So now let us look at the meaning of chemistry. Chemistry is a branch of science that deals with the study of properties, the reactions, and the uses of matter. Okay, I'll say that again. Chemistry is a branch of science that deals with the composition, the properties, and the uses of matter. Okay, so chemistry is a branch of science that deals with composition, properties, and uses of matter. Now, we have branches of chemistry, but we're going to narrow it down to 5 major branches. So, organic chemistry. Okay, so these are the branches of chemistry. We have organic chemistry, inorganic biochemistry, physical and analytical chemistry. So as the name sounds, organic chemistry simply means a branch of science or branch of chemistry that studies about organic compounds. And organic compounds in a layman's understanding means those compounds that consist of carbon and hydrogen only. So you can talk about carbohydrates, protein, and so on and so forth. So because organic compounds are the basis of life, so chemistry also tries to study them because they are so important to life. Now, inorganic chemistry is a branch of chemistry that studies inorganic compounds. And inorganic compounds simply means those compounds that are inanimate. We talk about metals, non-metals, talk about rock, all the minerals that we can find in our environment. Then, but biochemistry is a branch of chemistry that studies about biochemical processes. Talk about the processes such as the reactions that go on in a living cell, such as the multiplicity or the duplication of cells or gene. These are all biochemical processes. Then we talk about physical chemistry. Physical chemistry is a branch of chemistry that studies about chemical systems. Those chemical systems could be, things that deal with thermodynamics, that is application of heat to a chemical system, talk about open system, and basically this branch of chemistry, they make very use of physics knowledge such as thermodynamics, electricity and the likes. But Analytical chemistry, which is the large branch from our lesson today, is talking about the branch of chemistry that studies the composition. In this branch of chemistry, it is more practically about the different components and their qualities. So you can talk about quantitative study, which is about measuring the volume or mass, as the case may be. But when you talk about the qualitative analysis or qualitative study of a particular thing, we're talking about the distinct matter or distinct components or element that make it up. Try to isolate or study them separately like that. So basically, these are the branches of chemistry. All right, let us look at the uses or the application of chemistry. Like we know, chemistry is very, very useful. There is basically nothing that you can find on earth today that is not coming from the knowledge or invention or application of chemical or chemistry knowledge. So first of all, let us look at some of these uses. The uses are many, but we're going to dwell on this one. The first one there is clothing. The clothes we wear is made from the knowledge or the chemical research that scientists make. Like in the olden days, our forefathers used to wear leaves, animal skin. But as time goes on, from the advancement of science, we came to, human being came to realize that we cannot just keep wearing a particular type of cloth, which is just animal skin that is not processed, you know. And the animal skin could be very, very rough to the skin. But from the research of chemistry, we've been able to process that animal skin into a lot of things, such as leather, such as, different fabrics, resins, rayon, textile materials that we can use to make different clothing for different seasons. You talk about wool that you use when the weather is cold. You talk about jersey for those who play sports, variety of clothing. So right now in our world, we have the privilege of enjoying variety of clothing, as the nature or the climate deems fit. We just, wear the kind of clothing that is suited for that moment. Then the second one is drug production. Drug, in the olden days, a lot of persons used to die from, illness, even illnesses as, as simple as malaria. Let me call it simple now, but back then it was not a simple it was not a simple matter. So but from the advancement of science, we've been able to make researches and discover the treatments for malaria. Right now, say we have a lot of anti-malaria medicines. The varieties are many that you can choose from. So right now we have drugs for different ailments, even HIV/AIDS even have, drugs that we use to manage, the patients. So all of these are coming from um, the knowledge the knowledge of chemistry. Then the next one is food production. In the olden days also, we were not privileged to have a lot of food at our disposal because, for example, some of the foods that are perishable in nature, talk about fresh tomatoes, talk about even beef or meat. Okay, so we didn't have the avenue to preserve them. But right now, from the advancement of chemistry, we've been able to, preserve perishable foods, produce other foods in abundance. Right now, we cannot talk about hunger because we have fertilizer to boost the production of food. We have insecticide to curb pests and diseases. So right now, we have, mass production of food for the teeming population of the world. And all of these are coming from the knowledge or the application of the knowledge of chemistry. Then the next one is building. We have building. So the materials that we use in production or in the making of the building that we dwell into, they talk about cement, talk about tiles, talk about even the electrical materials. All of them are coming from the knowledge of chemistry. Okay, so if you remember when we're talking about the branches of chemistry, remember we made mention of inorganic chemistry, which is talking about minerals and metals, non-metals. All of these are, when chemists make research, talk about, for example, cement, which we produce from limestone, which is calcium triazo carbonate 4. Okay, so without the knowledge of chemistry, we will not be able to know that even the ground that we are working on is embedded with a lot of materials and raw materials for our use. So, but it's from the knowledge of chemistry that we're able to, solve most of our problems. All right. So, building chemistry have helped us to maintain and make affordable building that is comfortable for our living. Then we talk about cosmetic, talk about soap, talk about creams, talk about a lot of the things that we use for personal grooming, perfumes. All of them are coming from chemistry. Then we talk about automotives or automobiles. Talk about cars, the production of cars, airplane, talk about ships. All of these that help us in movement and transport, all of them are coming from the knowledge of chemistry. So you see, chemistry is a very, very important, essential topic in our lives. We cannot actually do without chemistry, and that is why you have to pay good attention to these lessons, because you are going to be realizing that most of the material that enable you to live a comfortable life, your day-to-day life, is actually coming from chemistry. So we cannot avoid or do without chemistry. All right, well, we shall stop here. There are other uses such as economical use, industrial use. When they talk about economical use, we are talking about when we're talking about environmental use, we're talking about using of chemistry to clean up the environment, such as landfill, such as the materials or chemicals that they use to treat, the environment, just to make it eco-friendly. Then we also talk about industrial use, talk about production of a lot of chemicals that are used by other industries, such as refining of petroleum. All of them are all made possible from the knowledge of chemistry. All right, like we know, there is nothing that have advantage that do not have disadvantage. So chemistry also has some adverse effects to life and to the environment. So that is what I've written in this part of the board. The first one there says pollution. So chemistry, from the production of chemicals, we have pollution. The plants that produce the chemicals actually emit chemical waste into the environment. Talk about, for example, when you refine petroleum into the various components such as petrol, diesel, coal tar, all of them, as you make that, even from the mining of petroleum itself, it pollutes the water body. Okay, and from that pollution of water body, the fishes get poisoned, and if anybody should eat the fish that is contaminated with that crude oil, the person could have some health challenges, and if it's not carefully managed, it could also lead to death. So you see, pollution, even from the burning of petrol in our combustion engines. Let's talk about the vehicle, cars, trucks, even the electric generators. When they burn, they emit carbon monoxide together with carbon dioxide, which is also dangerous to the environment. So all of these are pollution, solid pollutants, water pollutants, and the likes. All right, then talk about drug abuse, because because right now we are at advantage to lay our hands on a lot of drugs, okay, which is also the product of chemistry. A lot of human beings have begun to abuse the use of that drug, in the sense that if, for example, a particular drug was made to cure headache, for example, you realize that a lot of persons could also use the same drug to achieve other means outside the recommendation or the thought that the producer or manufacturer had in mind. Take for example cocaine. Cocaine is called a hard drug because a lot of persons have used it, in a variety of ways outside the doctor's prescription. So because of that, the same cocaine that should have cured diseases is now, ruining the minds and health of a lot of persons in the society. Okay, so that is why the government of many nations have put a ban that individuals should not handle such hard drugs. So these are some of the adverse effects because assuming chemistry did not make available drugs, people will not be able to find it handy, let alone to abuse it. All right, the next one is corrosion or rusting. A lot of the material that we find in our environment are made of metals, and especially iron metal. Most of them rust or they corrode. They corrode when the air in the environment comes in contact with the iron metal. So, and all of this corrosion came because of the production of, emission of chemicals or pollutants into the environment, that now reacts with the iron metal, causing it to corrode. So, and that is why right now, for all iron metals or iron, material that are made of iron, it's advisable that we paint it or combine it with other alloys, make it into, combine it with other metals that will not be able to react with air and water. All right, then the next one is gun and ammunition. These have been, the cause of mass destruction. For example, in Nigeria, a couple of years back, when the issue of Boko Haram was rampant, you discover that when you are listening to the news, you just hear that this particular location have been bombed. So the production of that bomb and ammunition, guns and the likes, have made it so easy for a lot of persons to destroy lives. And if you remember, these are all the production or the properties or product of chemistry. So the reason why we are pointing this out is to bring it to our mind that chemistry could do us a lot of good, and we should take advantage of the good part of chemistry to better our lives and not to use it, to destroy life or to cause us harm. All right, so these are some of the career prospects. When we talk about career prospect, we're looking at, the careers that if you must go into, you have to have a basic knowledge of chemistry. And that means you have to study chemistry in secondary school to be able to get admission into such careers. So there are many, but we'll just dwell on this four. The first one there is teaching service. For example, lecturers in science related courses, like lecturers that lecture in engineering departments, in science department, science inclined lecturers. If you want to be a lecturer or you want to be a teacher in secondary school, you will have to have the knowledge of chemistry, and that means you have to write and pass chemistry in your in your WAEC exams, or in the secondary school exam, depending on what country you're watching from. And then the next one there is health services. If you're going to be a health care giver, for example, if you're going to be a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, lab scientist, name it, all those that work in the health sector, you must have the knowledge of chemistry in your secondary school, and you must sit for it in the secondary school certification exam to be able to go into it in the university or polytechnic. Then the next one is food production and food processing. If you're going to produce food in large quantity or process food, For example, those that make tin tomatoes, those that make um, noodles, those that make different beverages. You must have the knowledge of chemistry. Okay, so if you are thinking about being a food technologist or food scientist or a researcher per se, so you must have this knowledge of chemistry. All right, then the next one is manufacturing industry. Manufacturing industry here simply means those that produce a lot of products, whether it is edible or not edible. Talk about cement production, soap, detergent, drugs, you name it. Okay, paper, all production per se, all industrial productions, you must have a good knowledge of chemistry. All right, so for a recap, remember that we started by defining chemistry. We said that chemistry is a scientific study that deals with the composition, properties, and uses of matter. We went ahead to mention the branches of chemistry. We talk about organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, physical chemistry, biochemistry, and analytical chemistry. Then we also talk about the uses of chemistry. We use it to produce clothes, to manufacture drugs, to make airplane and cars, vehicles for transportation aid. We also use it for building or making of products that we use in building and construction, and so many others. Then we talk about the disadvantages of chemistry or adverse effects. We talk about corrosion, we talk about um, pollution, we talk about drug abuse and the likes. Then finally, career that are tied to chemistry. We talk about teaching service, health service, food production, manufacturing industry. All right, so this is the much we can take for today. So we hope to continue this lesson in the next class. Thank you, guys.